In a hate crime case in Richland County that is headed to the federal level. Well, back in July, Jonathan Felkel was arrested and became the first person in Richland County charged with hate intimidation under the county's hate crime ordinance. It's the first of its kind for South Carolina. Investigators say that he admitted that he fired a gun at a complete stranger, Jarvis McKenzie, because Jarvis was black, telling deputies the shooting was meant to scare him. So this leads us to today, where the U.S. Department of Justice has announced an indictment on federal hate crime charges against him. Our Megan Gagnon has been tracking this story since July. Megan, what can you tell us?
Frondy, this case started at the county level under Richland County's hate crime ordinance, but today it took a significant turn. This is the federal indictment against Jonathan Felkel, bringing much more serious charges and potential prison time of up to 20 years. This video shows the moment prosecutors say a black man was targeted by a stranger in his Spring Valley neighborhood.
You know, it really had, I didn't believe it had happened till it dawned on me later on. I was like, wow, did this just happen? Especially in my neighborhood.
On Thursday, that case moved to federal court.
This case is deeply disturbing. Hate crimes do more than harm an individual. They send a message of fear and intimidation to an entire community, which is why we take them seriously.
A federal grand jury has indicted 34-year-old Jonathan Felkel on 2 counts, violating the housing rights of McKenzie and using a firearm in a crime of violence. If convicted, Felkel could face up to 20 years in prison.
I was surprised, being from South Carolina and seeing things a lot of times. There's been some people who try to downplay this entire incident, and you see from the highest levels of government here, that was not the situation. Investigators say Felkel shot at McKenzie through a car window, shouted a racially charged remark, and drove away. Sheriff Leon Lott says Felkel later admitted to investigators he shot at McKenzie because he is black.
Hate crimes exist in Columbia, South Carolina. They're here, and this is a case that's a great example of that.
McKenzie may have walked away without any bullet wounds, but the fear and trauma from that day continue to affect him and his family.
Big crowds, being around people who I don't really know, so it'll always come back to me like who is who.
Felkel was the first person charged under Richland County's hate crime ordinance, which council approved in June of this year. The ordinance making bias-motivated offenses a misdemeanor, having violators face up to a $500 fine and up to 30 days in jail. But because South Carolina remains one of 2 states without a hate crime law, federal authorities stepped in.
This is an example of why we need to have one statewide. Unfortunately, I have to go to the federal government to get somebody charged with a hate crime. Hate's there. We got to do something about it, and this is a case, I think, that's going to send a big message to anybody who thinks and believes they can go out and commit a crime that's based on hate. It's not going to be tolerated.
Now, Felkel's arraignment date in federal court is set for December 20th. This case mirrors another high-profile hate crime investigation right here in South Carolina, including the Mother Emanuel Church shooting, where federal prosecutors took the lead because the state lacks a hate crime law. Live in studio, I'm Megan Gagnon, Watch Fox News, Local First.